Holdo, you actually went there. Yeah, you crossed the line they painted to keep you small. And now, they're freaking out, because you didn't just step forward, you woke up. They're whispering your name like it's a warning. They're calling you dangerous, unstable, too much. But the truth, they're terrified. Terrified of what happens when a quiet mind stops obeying. Terrified of what happens when the underestimated one stops doubting. Terrified of the nightmare you just gave birth to.
Oh, but let's be honest. This isn't chaos.
This is evolution with a sinister smile. You see, every legend was once a mistake. Every revolution started with someone who went too far. And every villain in their story was just a hero who refused to kneel. So tonight, we're not here to apologize. We're not here to shrink. We're here to understand the monster they think you've become.
Because maybe, just maybe,
the nightmare wasn't born to destroy the world. Maybe it was born to wake it up. You feel it, don't you? That restless pulse under your skin. That laugh you swallow before it escapes. That voice in your head that doesn't whisper sweet comfort, but sharp truth. They told you to suppress it. They told you to medicate it. Silence it, discipline it. Be normal. They said, be reasonable. But what if that chaos inside you isn't a flaw? What if it's the most honest part of you? Chaos is just energy without permission. It's your anger when you've been disrespected too long. It's your ambition when they told you to aim lower. It's your imagination when the world demanded you color inside the lines. They fear chaos because chaos cannot be controlled. And a person who cannot be controlled, that's terrifying. You were trained to fear your own intensity, to dim your passion, to apologize for your depth. When you felt too much, they called you dramatic. When you thought too differently, they called you strange. When you wanted more, they called you greedy. So you tried to fold yourself into something digestible. Smaller, softer, quieter. But the chaos never left. It waited. Chaos is the part of you that refuses to die. It shows up when you're alone at night, staring at the ceiling, asking yourself why you're living someone else's version of your life. It shows up in the tightness in your chest, when you know you're capable of more. It shows up in the sudden urge to break routine, to speak up, to walk away, to build something no one expects from you. That's not madness. That's awakening. They want you predictable. Predictable people are safe. Safe people don't disrupt systems. But chaos disrupts. Chaos questions, chaos rebuilds. Every invention, every revolution, every masterpiece was born from someone who dared to embrace the storm inside instead of running from it. You think the world changes because of comfort? No. It changes because someone got tired of pretending. Your chaos is your raw power. It's your refusal to accept limits that don't belong to you. It's the fire that burns when you see injustice. It's the electric thrill when you imagine a bigger future. It's messy, yes. It's loud. It doesn't follow instructions. But it's real, and real is rare. When you embrace your chaos, you stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what do I want? You stop shrinking to fit rooms and start expanding until the room adjusts to you. You stop apologizing for your intensity and start owning it like a crown made of sparks. The world will call you unstable the moment you stop being convenient. They'll say you've changed. Of course you have. You finally stopped pretending. You finally let the laughter be a little louder, the ideas a little wilder, the standards a little higher. You finally accepted that the storm inside you wasn't there to destroy you, but to push you beyond the cage they built around your potential. Chaos doesn't mean destruction. It means transformation. A forest fire looks terrifying, but it clears the dead weight and makes room for new life. Your inner chaos burns away fear, doubt, and borrowed expectations. What remains is you, unfiltered, unapologetic, undeniable. And when you fully embrace that storm, when you stop fighting yourself and start directing that energy with intention, something shifts. The same force that once felt overwhelming becomes focused. The noise becomes music. The madness becomes strategy. The chaos becomes power. There was a line. You saw it. Everyone saw it. It wasn't written on the ground, but you felt it in every room you walked into. The invisible boundary of how loud you could be, how ambitious you could sound, how confident you were allowed to appear without making others uncomfortable. That line was never about morality. It was about control. They drew it early. Don't dream too big. Don't question authority. Don't stand out too much. Stay in your lane. Follow the script. Smile at the right time. Clap when you're told. And you did for a while. You played the role. You became digestible, predictable, safe. But something inside you kept leaning toward that line. Crossing the line, they fear isn't about chaos for the sake of chaos. It's about refusing to live inside limits designed by people who were too afraid to test their own. The line represents comfort for them, but confinement for you. On one side, there's approval. On the other, there's freedom. The first time you stepped over it even slightly, you felt it. The shift in energy, the silence, the stares. Maybe you spoke a truth no one wanted to hear. Maybe you walked away from something everyone expected you to tolerate. Maybe you aimed higher than they thought you should. Suddenly, you weren't easy anymore.
You were too much.
That reaction tells you everything. People don't panic when you fail. They panic when you break patterns, when you stop accepting crumbs, when you stop nodding along, when you stop laughing at jokes that shrink you, when you stop apologizing for your boundaries. Crossing the line they fear forces them to confront their own hesitation. The line is comfortable because it keeps everyone the same. No disruption. No growth, just repetition. But you weren't built for repetition. You were built for impact, and impact requires friction. There's always a moment before you cross it where doubt creeps in. What if I lose them? What if they reject me? What if I'm wrong? That's the final test. The line isn't guarded by walls. It's guarded by fear, and fear is loud. It will list every worst-case scenario, every possible criticism, every risk. But what it won't show you is the cost of staying put. Staying behind the line slowly erases you. It teaches you to edit your thoughts before they're spoken, to shrink your goals before they're seen, to measure your worth by how little space you take up. That's not safety. That's suffocation. When you cross the line, you reclaim space. You say what you mean. You pursue what excites you. You refuse to accept roles that don't fit. Some people will step back. Some will whisper. Some will try to pull you back into the familiar version of yourself they preferred. Not because they hate you, but because your courage unsettles them. Crossing the line they fear forces growth. Yours and theirs. It changes the dynamic. You are no longer the predictable piece in their structure. You are independent, self-directed, unapologetic, and that kind of autonomy is rare. The world labels line crossers as rebels, troublemakers, difficult. But every breakthrough in history came from someone who refused to stay where they were placed. Progress has always looked like defiance at first glance. When you choose to cross the line, you accept the tension that comes with authenticity. You accept that not everyone will understand. You accept that comfort may be replaced with challenge. But you also accept something far more valuable: ownership of your life. On the other side of that line, there's no script waiting for you. No guaranteed applause. Just open space. Space to build, to define yourself, to set new standards. The fear that once guarded the boundary becomes fuel. The resistance becomes proof that you moved. And once you realize that the line was never solid, Never sacred, never permanent. You stop treating it like a wall and start seeing it for what it truly is. A test of whether you are willing to live small for the sake of approval or step forward for the sake of truth. You see it in their eyes the moment you shift. That flicker, that subtle tension, the polite smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes anymore. Because something changed. You're not reacting the way you used to. You're not shrinking. You're not explaining yourself 10 times just to be accepted once. And now they're uncomfortable. Good, their panic is information. It's a signal that you stepped outside the version of you they could predict. Most people are comfortable as long as they can categorize you. Quiet one. Funny one. Follower. Background character. But the moment you break the pattern, their mental script collapses. And when scripts collapse, people panic. Panic looks like criticism. It sounds like, "Who do you think you are?" It feels like exclusion, gossip, sudden coldness. It's subtle sometimes. Other times it's loud and aggressive. But underneath it all, there's one truth: you disrupted their expectation. Turning their panic into power requires discipline. It's easy to react emotionally, to lash out, to try to prove yourself, to over-explain. But real power isn't loud chaos. It's controlled fire. It's understanding that their reaction is not a command. It's a reflection. When people panic, they reveal their limits. Your growth forces them to see where they stayed stagnant. Your confidence exposes their insecurity. Your boldness highlights their hesitation. And instead of confronting their own fears, they project them onto you. If you're not careful, you'll absorb that projection. You'll start questioning yourself. Am I doing too much? Am I being unrealistic? Should I tone it down? That's the trap. Their panic is contagious only if you accept it as truth. But what if you saw it differently? What if every raised eyebrow was confirmation you're evolving? What if every whisper was proof you're no longer invisible? What if every attempt to diminish you was evidence that your presence carries weight? Power begins when you stop defending your expansion. You don't need to argue with every critic. You don't need to respond to every doubt. Silence can be sharper than any comeback. Focus can be louder than any explanation. Let them talk while you build. Let them speculate while you execute. Let them panic while you plan. There's a strange energy that comes from being underestimated and feared at the same time. It creates space. People step back. They watch. They analyze. And in that space you move. Strategically, intentionally, calmly. Turning panic into power is alchemy. It's taking negative emotion directed at you and converting it into motivation. Not rage-fueled destruction. Precision-driven action. Instead of arguing, you improve. Instead of reacting, you refine. Instead of shrinking, you sharpen. Notice how panic fades when results appear. The same people who questioned you start adjusting their tone. The same voices that doubted grow quieter. Not because they suddenly understand you, but because evidence is difficult to debate. But you don't wait for their approval. That's not the goal. The goal is internal stability. When you are grounded in your purpose, external turbulence becomes background noise. You stop needing validation. You stop fearing rejection. You stop measuring your direction by other people's comfort. Their panic once felt intimidating. Now it feels predictable. Of course, they're uneasy. Growth is unsettling. Change is disruptive. Independence is threatening to systems built on compliance. The more composed you remain, the more powerful you become. Emotional control is leverage. Clarity is armor. Consistency is dominance. You don't mirror their chaos. You master yours. Eventually, something fascinating happens. Their panic either transforms into respect or dissolves into distance. Either outcome benefits you. Respect creates new dynamics. Distance removes obstacles. And you stand there, steady, knowing that the very reaction meant to intimidate you became the fuel that refined you. They built a version of you in their minds. Smaller, softer, predictable, easy to manage. And when you finally broke out of that frame, when you stopped fitting into the role they assigned you, they didn't see growth. They saw threat. They didn't see confidence. They saw rebellion. They didn't see transformation. They saw a monster. So they gave it a name. You've changed. You're different. You're not the same anymore. And they said it like an accusation. But look closer. Who created that nightmare? Who pushed you to the edge with constant doubt, subtle disrespect, low expectations, and silent competition? Who kept underestimating you until your silence turned into strategy? They did. You didn't wake up one day wanting to intimidate anyone. You just got tired of being underestimated. You got tired of playing harmless. You got tired of dimming your light so others wouldn't feel insecure. And the moment you stopped, the moment you stood taller and spoke clearer and demanded more, the narrative shifted. Now you're the villain. Becoming the nightmare they created isn't about cruelty. It's about evolution. When pressure builds long enough, it changes form. Coal becomes diamond. Silence becomes voice. Patience becomes power. They mistook your restraint for weakness. They mistook your kindness for compliance. And when you revealed depth, intensity, ambition, they panicked. The nightmare is just the version of you that no longer tolerates disrespect. It's the boundaries you enforce without apology. It's the goals you pursue without seeking permission. It's the calm expression on your face when someone tries to provoke you and fails. It's the quiet confidence that doesn't beg to be understood. They fear what they can't control. And you are no longer controllable. There's something unsettling about someone who has nothing to prove. When you stop chasing validation, you become unpredictable. When you stop explaining yourself, you become mysterious. When you stop reacting emotionally, you become strategic. And strategy is intimidating to those who rely on manipulation. You didn't become darker. You became clearer. Clear about what you deserve. Clear about what you won't accept. Clear about where you're going. That clarity cuts through illusions. It exposes hidden motives. It disrupts comfortable dynamics. The nightmare they speak of is simply your refusal to return to who you used to be. It's your discipline when they expected distraction. Your silence when they expected argument. Your success when they expected stagnation. Every time you rise without bitterness, without drama, without begging, you reinforce the image they fear. And here's the twist: you don't even need to threaten anyone. Your growth alone does the job. Your focus becomes unsettling. Your detachment becomes powerful. Your independence becomes loud. There's strength in accepting that not everyone will applaud your transformation. Some benefited from your insecurity. Some felt superior when you doubted yourself. Some were comfortable when you were uncertain. But now, you move differently. You think differently. You operate differently. Becoming the nightmare they created means embracing the intensity they tried to suppress. It means sharpening your mind instead of softening your standards. It means letting results speak where arguments once lived. It means choosing elevation over explanation. You don't chase revenge. You chase excellence. You don't broadcast threats. You build quietly. And that quiet build is what unsettles them the most. Because deep down, they know something has shifted permanently. The old version of you isn't coming back. The compliant one. The unsure one. The easily influenced one. That version dissolved the moment you realized your value. And now, when they look at you, they don't see chaos. They see consequence. Rules are funny things. Most people follow them without ever asking who wrote them. They inherit them like last names. Be realistic. Wait your turn. Don't aim higher than your background. Know your place. Invisible laws passed down by people who were too afraid to rewrite their own story. You grew up inside those rules. You memorized them. You operated within their limits. You calculated your dreams based on what seemed acceptable. You shaped your personality around what was rewarded. And for a while, it worked. You survived. You blended in. You avoided conflict. But survival isn't dominance. Rewriting the rules of the game starts the moment you question why the game exists the way it does. Why is success defined so narrowly? Why is ambition labeled arrogance? Why is confidence mistaken for ego? Who benefits when you stay modest about your potential? Rules protect systems. Systems protect comfort, and comfort protects mediocrity. The moment you decide to rewrite the rules, you stop seeking approval from outdated standards. You stop measuring your worth by traditional timelines. You stop asking whether you're all owed to pursue something bigger. Permission becomes irrelevant. Rewriting rules doesn't mean reckless rebellion. It means strategic redefinition. It means looking at the blueprint of your life and erasing the parts that were never truly yours. It means understanding that many boundaries were suggestions disguised as laws. For example, the rule that says you must wait to be chosen. What if you choose yourself? The rule that says experience must come before opportunity. What if courage comes first? The rule that says you need validation before visibility. What if visibility creates validation? When you rewrite the rules, you shift from participant to architect. People may resist at first. They'll remind you of how things are done. They'll warn you about stepping outside tradition. They'll frame your innovation as arrogance. But every breakthrough in any field happened because someone ignored the old manual and wrote a new one. Rewriting the game requires internal authority. You must trust your instincts more than external noise. You must be willing to look foolish before you look visionary. You must tolerate misunderstanding while you build understanding through results. There's risk involved. New rules have no guarantee. Old ones at least offer predictability. But predictability is often the enemy of greatness. If you follow the same script as everyone else, you inherit the same ceiling. Think about the rules you've unconsciously accepted. The salary you thought was your limit. The lifestyle you thought was out of reach. The leadership role you assumed belonged to someone else. Those assumptions are mental contracts, and contracts can be renegotiated. When you redefine standards for yourself, everything shifts. Your work ethic intensifies. Your expectations rise. Your circle evolves. Your habits align with expansion instead of maintenance. You stop playing small to avoid criticism and start playing big to fulfill potential. Rewriting the rules also means redefining failure. Instead of seeing it as proof you should retreat, you treat it as data, information, adjustment. Instead of asking, what will people say if I lose? You ask, what will I learn if I try? The game changes when your mindset changes. Suddenly, competition becomes collaboration or irrelevance. Comparison becomes distraction. Time becomes asset instead of pressure. You create your own metrics. You define what winning looks like. You design your own pace. Some will call it arrogance. Others will call it delusion. A few will recognize it as leadership. But labels stop mattering when clarity takes over. You no longer move according to inherited fear. You move according to intentional vision. You don't wait for the world to update its standards. You update yours first. And when enough results stack up, when consistency proves your direction, the same people who defended the old rules start adapting to yours.